Hi guys, welcome to Unit 7 in Com 110. All right, so let's talk about Unit 7. Unit 7 is all about the self and communication. So you would be surprised how much your self-concept and self-esteem influence your communication with others. So the way that we view ourselves, the way that this self is sort of brought up by experiences, by our peers, by our family circle, all really impact our communication. We'll talk about this a little bit later in the course, but one really easy example of this is sort of like how you deal with conflict, right? So when we aren't feeling great about ourselves, when we are kind of struggling on the inside, we often don't respond to stress or conflict very well. A lot of times our family has a big, or whoever you grow up with, your peers can have a big influence on how you handle conflict. You might have grown up in a home that has a lot of yelling. And maybe that's a style that you either embodied and that's how you respond to conflict, or you kind of go the opposite, right? Like you were so used to all the yelling in the home that now you avoid conflict at all costs. So those can kind of be two different ways that the self and kind of how we're raised influence something as easy as conflict. So we're going to look at chapter 3. So we're going to kind of go back in the book. So we'll look at the self-perception and communication. You will need chapter 3 in order to fill out your read and response activity number 6. So you've got some definitions there. Also have a lecture. I would highly suggest watching this lecture. This will help you on one of the assignments that you're going to do this unit. And I explain it a lot better in the lecture than kind of you're going to get if you're just reading on your own. So highly suggest the lecture for this one. Okay, so after we do our read and response number 6, we do have a journal this week. This one's just kind of a sort of know yourself better sort of journal, something that hopefully you can implement in your daily life after this. So we are going to look at social comparisons, and that is when you're obviously comparing yourself to other people in your peer group, or, obviously with the influx of social media, life is hard. We can now compare ourselves to people we have never met and people we don't even know that really exist, or people that do not exist. Like there are all kinds of like AI social media out there, right? So how have social comparisons impacted your self-esteem? I always say I am so lucky that I did not grow up in the age of social media. I cannot imagine having that as a child and a teenager. That would have been very rough. Facebook came out when I was in college. So it was very, very different. And yeah, a lot of pressures exist these days. Just lots going on there. So give a couple of examples from your experience to illustrate how social comparisons have impacted you. And this doesn't necessarily have to be social media. It could also be like peer groups, or if you have siblings, there are oftentimes like the comparison between siblings can be something that impacts us. The second one is just a fun article about boosting your self-esteem. So read quickly through it. Identify 2 guidelines that you feel like you could incorporate this semester and how you plan to incorporate them, and just try to be specific about why you chose them and what you hope to get out of that. So again, just kind of a fun one there, but hopefully some things that you can pick up to sort of help you through, or like getting towards the end of the semester. You might need just a little pick-me-up or a daily reminder that, you are good inside and life is okay. All right. And then our last assignment for this week is a super fun one. And for those of you who are creative, this is going to be right up your alley. If you're not, I'm sorry. This will be just the one assignment you won't love. But we are going to create a collage, okay? So one of the things that we're going to talk about this week is there are 3 selves. So we look at the material self, the social self, and the spiritual self. You will find much more information about this in this week's lecture. Again, it's at the end. So if you want to fast forward to that, that's fine. And then also I've given you a link to the empirical self, which just gives you a little breakdown of what each of those are. So you're going to choose one of these selves to represent. So in a very short version, again, you're going to need to listen to the lecture for a better idea of this, but the material self is kind of like what you own. Social self is who you are in different social situations with different people. And the spiritual self is more grounded into like your beliefs about the world. That could be religious beliefs, what have you. So these selves all influence how we communicate. So you're going to choose one that you want to represent, and we are going to make a collage about that. So I'm going to open up this lovely Be Funky collage maker. It's free, and Hopefully your browser will load it a little faster than mine will. But it's super fun. Okay, so it can give you all the lovely instructions. You can read that on your own time and skip through that. Okay, so 6 or more photographs or graphics, and I'll show you what that looks like. And then I just said make sure everything's class appropriate. So the starter one, it's automatically going to give you one with 9 squares. You can change that if you want. So there are all kinds of different layouts. So like, look at something like this. Look for the ones that are free. You don't necessarily want to pay. So this initial one might be the only free one. They've updated that recently. So that's fine. Just stick with that. And then you can do all kinds of fun things. So you can throw in like random patterns. You can make this as crazy as you want. You can throw in graphics. Okay. So you can throw those in there. You can put in text. So any kind of things. So really like layer on as much as you want. Okay. And then when it comes to the images, so you can either upload your own images if you want, or you can pull from the stock images. I personally don't care if they're your images or not. Some people don't want to share their own images, and that's totally fine. So you need to have 6 that represent that particular self. So for example, if you chose spiritual self and you are a member of a particular religious group, you might want to include some photos that mean something in that religious group. You might think about like maybe you are really into, like for me, I love my animals. They are as important to me as people. So I might have a picture of my animals up there, and then I could describe like that belief in their, I don't know, worth is a big part of who I am. So you're going to make your collage. Oh, let me show you this. And then you can just go in and save it. So you can save it to your computer. It's just going to save as like an image. And then we're going to go back over here and you're going to upload it to Padlet. Shouldn't have to tell you how Padlet works. You guys are really good with that. So you're just going to double click and then put your name in the subject. Okay. And then you're going to write 1 to 2 paragraphs that describe what these pictures are. So maybe a brief description of each picture and why you included those. So what do they communicate or tell us about that particular self? Okay. And then you can just upload the image there and save it. So again, this should be fun. This should not take a lot of brain power. This should not take you an inordinate amount of time. Like if you want to make it super fancy, great, love it. Very excited to see it, but that is not a requirement. So as long as you have your 6 pictures, you're good to go. All right. And then you're going to post it there. So again, you've got your collage with your short description, your journal, and the read and response activity. And the last thing for Unit 7 is your quiz. So go back, use your read and response papers there, and then you have 2 tries for that. If you have any trouble with the Collage Maker or need me to help you out in any way with technology, please let me know. Sometimes people have trouble uploading the collage to the Padlet if their computer just doesn't like the file. So let me know and I can always go back in and help you with that. All right, have a great week.